Welcome to the Hard Truth Podcast. This is Jeremy Fouts, and we are honored today to have special guest John Mulligan. John Mulligan actually lives in Iowa, a friend of mine that has turned hard work into a full-time job that he loves. And the name of today's topic that we're going to be talking about, and he'll get into it to explain, is work more hours. And I'm pretty sure you are not going to want to miss this podcast. Pay attention. John Mulligan is an undercover narcotics agent, and he has used hunting as a way to fulfill all the things that he was doing in the undercover narcotics agency. And I'm telling you guys, you're going to want to hear his story. Good friend, also jujitsu, a 46-year-old fit man that loves what he's doing. John, it's a pleasure and an honor. I talk to my audience often about getting outdoors, finding you something that is good for the soul, finding a way to harvest something, to be able to bring it back, to feed your family, finding those ways that's good for you to fulfill the time that we have. And you have an incredible story how you use this as a way to do something on the side, and it's turned into a full-time living. I can't wait for the audience to hear your testimony, to hear what you have done by building a full-time career out of something you love. Let's get started though, and share a little bit more about your background, and thank you for your service. I know so many times it's easy for us to just pay attention to the people that served in maybe military only, but police officers like yourself is what keeps the streets safe at night. And a lot of times it's easy for us to forget that. And so get in and share with us your story and how you have turned working more hours into doing something you love.
Let's go. What up?
Oh, thanks for having me. That's a hell of an edification. I hope I can live up to it here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. I grew up in Central Kentucky, Irish Catholic family. My dad was a plumber, and we farmed and stuff. But I had that work ethic instilled into me pretty early. But admittedly, I lacked a little bit of discipline, and fitness was actually the thing for me that I got that from. I have buddies all the time that'll ask me, they're like, "Hey, dude, do you ever have days you don't want to work out?" I'm like, every day,
Yeah.
like probably 5 days of the week. I don't really truly want, to go in there necessarily, but I do. And I know that I'm going to feel better about it. But that was that discipline where I don't think about things. I just know that it's got to get done. So let's just get it done. And then I've been able to apply that to everything in life. I talk about it on a lot of podcasts too. People are like, "Man, how'd you find that deer? How'd you scout that? How did you accomplish this business?" A little bit of an entrepreneur myself. And I said, it's just discipline. Like, it just has to get done. Don't think about it. Just do it.
Yep.
So, and like you mentioned, work more hours. Funny story about that is my dad made it a deal with me growing up. And in Kentucky, when you're 16, you get your driver's license. Unlike Iowa, they only have to be 14. But I was like 15 and a half, and I'd been saving some money. And his deal was however much money I saved, he would match it on my first car. And that's it. You're cut off the tit at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the way my dad was, when you're 16, you're a grown ass man, really.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so I said, "Well, how do I make more money?" And he said, "You work more hours." And I'm like, "Well, that's kind of a stupid thing to think, sure. Yeah, of course, but what he meant by that," and it took me a lot of years to understand it, because on the surface, work more hours to me was like 9 to 5.
Right.
You just got to work more. And what I later determined is that what he meant by that was, if you want to have a better relationship with God, if you want to have a better relationship with your family, or if you want to get better at your hobbies or your passions, you got to put in the work. You just have
Yeah.
to work more to get better at it. Nothing's given to you in life. And that became so symbolic to me. And I carried that through every business that I started, every endeavor, every passion that I had. It's easy to get down on yourself and say, "Man, I'm new to this. I suck at it." Well, of course you do. You're new. Everybody sucks at it. But if I want to get better, I just got to put in the time. So It's even tattooed on my arm. I started a company called Work More Hours, and I just make a really cheesy, simple T-shirt in a typewriter font, and it just says Work More Hours. And I wear them around town sometimes, and I'll get what I call simple-minded people, and they'll say, "Work more hours." Shit, I'm trying to work less. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you're missing the point. Like, it's not about just going to your 40-hour grind, maybe a job that you hate. Work more hours means so many more things, and I think people quite, can't wrap their head around. But I used that throughout growing up. I went to college, started a landscape company. I became a police officer in Northern Kentucky, and so I've always had a lot of irons in the fire. You know what I mean? And I was getting kind of stuck because when you're undercover, there's not a lot of things you can do out in public. It wasn't like I was going to join a bowling league, and even going to a gym was something I didn't really want to do. So we had this little small law enforcement police gym that I could go to. And one of my buddies said, "You ought to get into hunting." But where I grew up in central Kentucky, we didn't even have whitetail deer. We had cows and thoroughbreds. That's all we had, next to Keeneland racetrack. And so he said, we ought to get into whitetail. So I went to the public library and I checked out a bunch of books like Whitetail 101 and Whitetail Strategies. And the cool thing is I've gone back and I've repurchased those books that I checked out of the library. I've purchased the hard copies and I've kept here at the house. And it's kind of neat to kind of see where it all came from. But got into hunting. I took to it very well. And one of the things I always did was I kind of humanized animals that I was pursuing. And it's no different, like if a human's trying to do something sneaky, he doesn't want anybody to see him do it. Right. So if a deer's trying to sneak through the woods, he doesn't want to see another, a human or something like that seeing what he's doing. So I've always just found ways to kind of humanize the strategy, especially during the rut and the mating season. It's no different than a guy at the bar trying to pick up on girls or something like that, and found little ways, little analogies for teaching myself. But I had a lot of success early on. I met up with a guy that had a hunting show that was selling DVDs. So I'm aging myself now. He was selling hunting DVDs, and he said, you ought to film yourself hunt. And I said, man, I don't want to do that. I like hunting for me. I don't need to share it with anybody. I get all the enjoyment that I need. And he said, man, just give it a shot. So I filmed one of my hunts in Kentucky, and it was cool because instead of telling your buddy about the hunt, I could say, here, let's just watch it, and right. I popped in the DVD and he got to watch it. And I fell in love with the whole storytelling aspect, of hunting and enjoying the outdoors. And I thought, if nothing else, man, maybe I can get a few other cops to understand that here's a little something you can do, to give yourself a break from what it is we do. And the world's just not all garbage. There is a beautiful world out there in the outdoors. And I just found immediate peace. If I'm sitting in a tree stand 20 foot up in the air, it's like time stopped. I just felt great. I could let my guard down. I wasn't, looking over my shoulder. I wasn't necessarily pursuing a human that could be pursuing me. And that was my first immediate take. And then I really started to love the pursuit, of figuring out different animals. And I chose bow hunting because I wanted it to be more of a challenge. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And I never thought it was going to go anywhere further than just something I was going to do, for a hobby. I picked up a camera, and because I love the outdoors, I wanted to photograph the outdoors. Well, apparently my photography became really well liked, and companies in the outdoor space started reaching out to me and were wanting to pay me to do, photography for them. So that was another step. I got into doing a lot of freelance photography work, and I'm like, this is cool, making a few extra dollars on the side, and then I owned a company in the outdoor space, a company called Wicked Tree Gear.
Yeah.
and very, very Duck Dynasty style. I mean, my wife and I were building these things on the kitchen table, and we landed Cabela's and Bass Pro and Field and Stream and Academy. I mean, we were in every sporting goods store, in the United States. Once the company hit about $1 million in sales, then we get a call from a holding company. It seems like once you hit that mark, then everybody says, okay, we want a piece of that. So we ended up selling the company to a holding group. And in the agreement, because the company was based in Iowa, technically, they wanted me to move to Iowa and stay on board for 3 years to oversee the transition and design some more SKUs. So I sold my landscape company, retired from law enforcement, and I thought, man, twist my arm, come to Iowa and chase whitetails, giant whitetails. So that was the decision, made that decision. We came up here about 8 years ago. And then once I got here, I thought, okay, I have 3 years to figure out what I want to do because this contract's going to end and I need to have something out here. And so I made a decision. I was like, you know what? In 3 years, I'm going to start my own hunting show. So I branched off from the show that I was on, and it was kind of that solo project. You got a bunch of guys in a band, and then one guy breaks off to start a solo project. So that's kind of what I did. And it's just every year it's grown. I mean, very humble beginnings, started with a shoestring budget. And, but like with any business, if you keep hustling at it and you have a lot of luck, things can start to go your way. And, now, I mean, one of 2 Under Armour athletes in the United States. And so that was kind of one of those big check marks, like, oh man, I finally got a seat at the table, kind of deal. All this hard work paid off. But I tell you again, like I said, the basis of it all has been fitness. That is that thing. If you take somebody that has the mentality that I'm going to get up and go to the gym every day, whether I want to or not, I'm going to go kick my own ass just to get up and go do it all over again the next day. You're instilling some serious qualities that you can pretty much tackle the world. I look at people that I see at the gym every day and I'm like, man, they are totally underachieving because they already have that mindset that they could do anything they want to do in life. So that's kind of how I got to the point I'm at right now.
I'm going to do an episode, John, here pretty quick, talking about a full day's work. And, I grew up on a row crop farm as well.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, he always taught me, just like your dad, put in a full day's work.
Yep.
And I see so many problems that men struggle with in society today. And I think a lot of it is they're not putting in a full day's work. I mean, they're waking up, at 6:30, 7:30, 8 o'clock, going to a job, coming back, jumping on the couch, watching Netflix. They have nothing that's pushing them to put in a full day's work. They've lost that fire, and that's what I love about the outdoors. I mean, I totally agree with you. I just took my son this Labor Day weekend, and he's 17. He was up late, Saturday night, and Sunday morning, drug him out of bed, got out there. And when that sun started coming up, I told him, I said, Pearson, there's 2 things that I've never regretted. Number 1, seeing the sun come up, or number 2, going to the gym. Now, going to the gym, you might regret it, but coming back, you never regret it.
That's right.
But putting in a full day's work, you said you've got a little bit of luck, and, I know you're being humble with that, but that luck comes from you put in the work. And that's what a lot of people don't understand.
But what is it they always say? Like, hard work, presents opportunities,
Yeah.
And I think that's putting yourself in the right place. It comes down to it a lot. It's funny, my camera girl, we go back and forth, and she's heard me say, like, man, we'll get done with a hunt or something. And I said, luck played into our hands. And she's like, you were the one that made the decision to climb that saddleback. You know what I mean? You were the one that made the decision to drop into that basin. The hard work is what made that luck, present itself. And I'm like, yeah, but it could have gone the other way. And she's like, how many animals have you taken with a bow in the last 5 years? Like, you must be the luckiest hunter in the world,
Yeah.
but I always say I try to always say it's hard. It takes a lot of luck.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it takes things to work out right, but it's not going to happen if you stay in bed, and it's not going to happen if you don't put in the work to climb, like you said, to get to where you need to get to.
That's
I
right.
love that you said fitness. A lot of the audience maybe don't know, but I owned a outfitting agency, still have my outfitter number in Colorado.
Hmm.
And I worked with so many different guys that would come to camp and they could not climb one little bitty hill. And I
Yeah.
would always tell them that, you're very limited to what you can do. So, your fitness, putting it first, you're able to climb the mountains, you're able to pack the meat out, you're able to
Yeah.
do what you need to do and enjoy doing it. I mean,
Hmm.
I get so frustrated when I see men that's obese and I don't judge them based on what they look. I look at it and think, man, you are missing out
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
living a good quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing about, I'm the same way. Admittedly, it's easy to be judgmental if I see
Yeah.
somebody that's not in shape. And I've always kind of believed, always be a weapon, always be prepared, should you need to. But, being in shape, it allows you to do so many other things that I think people don't really realize. So when I see somebody out of shape, I look at it more from a work ethic standpoint. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're probably lazy. And then you peel back the layers, and I'm like, they probably don't have a lot of drive. They probably lack some confidence. Um, Somebody probably didn't push them, hard enough to be better, and they don't have that self respect just to be better. Want to
Yeah.
be better. Um, but it's always very telling. You can see it in a physical appearance like that, and
Oh, 100%.
and it's sad because I'm like, man, life is so much better. And
Yeah.
and I'm not saying somebody has to do what you and I do as far
Right.
as working out like crazy people. Just a
Right.
little bit of activity makes you feel so much better.
Oh, 100%. I've got to ask the question. I love asking anybody that enjoys the outdoors like myself, what has been in the last 4 or 5 years doing this for a living, the most enjoyable hunt or the one hunt that you said, you know what, this one right here caps it off.
Saskatchewan. So was coming off of the best hunting season I've ever had in my life. I was at like day 37 of a big swing, and I'd already taken 4 whitetails already. Iowa, Texas. Where else did I go that year? Oh, shot another one in Saskatchewan as well. And it was negative 33 that day that I shot that whitetail in Saskatchewan. And you're doing 10-hour sits in a tent, in the snow. And you're just sitting in an ice box. You're sitting on probably 5 foot of snow that's hard ice. So you're literally sitting on ice, and it's negative 33. But we had a couple of days left, and I remember, in Canada, you can't just go up to Canada and hunt. You got to hunt through a guide. If not, it would be like the Wild Wild West.
Right.
And so I remember the guide's like, "What do you want to do? You just want to chill?" I'm like, "No, man, we got a couple of days. Let's see if we can go find a wolf, or, I might shoot another whitetail, mule deer, something like that." So he calls me completely like in a panic, and he says, he's like stuttering. And he said, I just spotted a giant moose. And Saskatchewan's not typically known for big, big moose. And so he comes and picks us up. We go tearing down this 2-track, this logging road where they'd been logging a bunch of timber. And I look across this field, and I see what I believe to be a 48, 50-inch wide moose, which is just a giant, giant moose in Saskatchewan. And that day it was negative 39. And I've got my bow in my hand, and I'm thinking, there's no way that I can stalk across this open snowfield. I stick out like a sore thumb, and I'm looking at the terrain, seeing if there's other ways that I can access to come in. It's just not possible. And I'm thinking, I'm going to die of hypothermia trying to wait out this moose. he's built for this stuff. I'm not built for negative 39, you know?
Right.
So my camera girl, she had a rifle in the truck. Now, to back up just a little bit, I had not taken any animal in about 14 years with anything other than a bow. I mean, I'm talking 40 something turkeys, pronghorn, antelope, whitetails, mule deer, you name it, bears. I hadn't shot anything with a rifle. And not that I felt like I was an elitist, it's just that's what I like doing. I like bow hunting.
Right.
And so a decision was made that I could climb down off my high horse and pick up that rifle and shoot that, you know, that moose, or walk away from that hunt being too proud and missing out on a hunt of a lifetime, you know, one of my
Yeah.
bucket list animals. So I said, give me your rifle. And she looked at me, her eyes got real big, like, are you serious? Like, a rifle? Like, have you thought this through? And I said, give me the rifle, or I changed my mind. And I shoot this moose. And then, of course, you know, as everybody knows, on big game animals like that, that's where the hard work really happens. Now you got to break this thing down to make sure we preserve all the meat, which in those temperatures, we're not too worried about that. But so we break this thing down. Takes 5 of us about 2.5 hours to get this thing toted back to the vehicle. We get inside the truck. I've got the full icicle beard and I'm just exhausted. You know, I'm ready for a nap at this point. We go to leave. We drive about a mile down the road and we end up spotting another bull moose. And she's got a bull moose tag as well. And so I looked at her and I said, do you want that moose? It's like shit or get off the pot time. You got to make a decision. And she's like, hell yeah, I want that moose. So she shoots it. She's crying. We're celebrating. And then all of a sudden reality set in for all 5 of us. Now we got another 2.5 hour pack out job to get her moose out of the snow and get loaded up. So probably the most exhausting day I've ever had, with highs and lows. But also maturing as a person and as a hunter, that yes, I prefer, you know, bow hunting, but it's not the end all be all. There's rifle hunting is still fun too. And now I do want to shoot a moose with a bow at some point before I die, but but nonetheless, that was one of those crazy hunts that, just like I said, enjoying it with good people, extreme weather conditions. You know, anytime I tell that story and people are like, you said it was negative 39. They're like,
Yeah.
I would have never been in that opportunity because I would have been inside the house next to the fire bundled up. There's no way I would have ever been outside. And I kind of respond with that Brad Pitt line from that movie, Troy. I'm like, and that's why no one will ever remember your name.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, I tell you, I was telling the dad the other day, he said, what is it that you really enjoy about taking your boys outdoors? And, you know, and I was giving him a whole list of different things. And then he said, how much work is it after you get an animal down? I said, well, it depends on the location. But I said, I will tell you this, the last 2 elk that we killed was about 3 miles straight up a mountain. We had to go down and back up like 4 or 5 different times with these 2 cow elk. And he said, did the boys enjoy it? I said, absolutely. They might not have enjoyed it kind of like going to the gym, but I can tell you, any night that we made elk steaks, they told that whole story about having to carry. And if they had friends at the house, they was telling the story about how tired they was. They slept like a baby that night. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Facing those elements of 39 degrees negative, you know, and then putting in the work to put meat in the freezer. You know, I don't know. I don't know how anything else can make you feel more fulfilled for the day than making that kill shot, you know, making the processing everything, taking it home, doing everything the right way, saying thanks over the meal to what God created, and being able to enjoy it.
Well, and that was the other thing too, is after we got done harvesting those 2 moose, we were hunting with natives in Saskatchewan, and they shared a little ceremony with us where we actually took some tobacco. We buried down, we had to go down pretty far to get back down to bare dirt, but we dug a hole, put some tobacco in the ground, covered it back up, and that was the way that, they give thanks back to Mother Earth for providing, for us. And it's a token of appreciation to give back. And that was pretty cool that they shared that little ceremony with us and allowed us to participate in that with them.
Yeah,
And that kind of capped off, that whole
yeah,
deal.
yeah. I've got to ask, what was the reason for the tobacco? Do you know?
That part I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know if
that's
it's
okay.
that tobacco is grown, from from the earth, and we were
Yeah,
given something back.
yeah.
Um, but
That's
yeah,
interesting.
that was pretty cool that they shared with that. And
Oh yeah,
one of the other guys, I've talked to some other buddies about that have hunted there, and they said, man, that's kind of something sacred to them. They
yeah.
typically don't share that with
Just anyone.
just anybody. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
usually kind of something just to the native culture there.
Yeah, I'm a quarter Cherokee Indian, and that's something I love learning the different culture, what they did. I was talking to a gentleman the other day. I'm big on doing 3-day water fast,
Hmm.
and I was trying to explain to him how I feel day 3. I'm not hungry. I mean, my senses, everything is just magnified.
Yeah.
And I think that's something too. Back a long time ago with the hunters and gatherers, they wasn't just hungry and went home to the teepee. They said, you know what, I'm gonna use these extra senses. I'm gonna make sure I harvest an animal and then
Hmm.
come back and enjoy that with my community of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I
It's
mean, it's
funny.
born in us.
Yeah, and I've got some bone broth. I've been pretty interested in doing some of those fasting,
Yeah,
with the bone broth as well.
yeah.
And that's what
It's
everybody
pretty
says.
remarkable.
Everybody says day 3, day 1 and day 2 kind of suck a little bit, but then
Yeah.
day 3 you kind of have this like resurgence.
Oh yeah. And the mental clarity, everything is just
Just feel
phenomenal.
really sharp. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So John, I know you've got a few hunts. Can you give us an update on
Mhm.
where you're headed next and the few hunts? I know I barely caught you right before bow season, and those in the audience that don't understand how difficult it is to harvest an animal with the bow. It takes, I mean, you definitely have to work more hours, not
Oh
just
yeah.
in your scouting, but I mean, one little bitty tweak at the wrong time makes that arrow go 2 or 3 feet, 4 feet, in the wrong direction. So
Yeah.
you're putting in the time. What kind of hunts do you have coming up, and where can we watch you on Instagram?
So I just finished up with an Arizona elk hunt, a velvet
Okay.
elk hunt. Um, but it's weird because that was so early in the year, in the summer, it almost didn't feel like it was a part of the fall,
Right.
but so officially kicking off the fall this weekend, I will be down in Kentucky. Hopefully they still got velvet on their antlers, but I've got an archery hunt down there. And then September 14th, I'll be headed up to that Guffey, Canyon City area. I've got a velvet mule deer tag up there. This will be the third year in a row that I've done that hunt. It's become kind of a staple hunt of my season. I love it so much. I love being in that altitude, and it's a good way to start kicking my own tail. You know what I mean?
Oh
At
yeah.
10,000 feet. Um, and then after that, I'm actually taking a small break, going to head out to Vegas, not for typical Vegas fun, but I'm going to be filming a show. Remember that show, Pros versus Joes?
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to be on a show it's called Surviving Man with Don Mann, U.S. Navy SEAL. But I'm going to be one of the pros, and then civilian contestants are going to try to compete against me in physical and shooting challenges and stuff like that. So hopefully I do good, but we'll see.
Absolutely.
I know there's some civilians out there that are sharpshooters, as well. So that'll be fun. We're going to film an episode with those guys. Then I take a small break. I've got a jujitsu tournament the first week in October up in the Quad Cities. And then after that, we head to Arizona. I drew a rifle mule deer tag in Arizona in just a smoker unit. I mean, just hammers, big trophy mule deer. Um, and then if you're a resident in the state of Iowa, you get 2 whitetail tags every year. So what I always do is I do one archery tag And then my second tag is either archery or muzzleloader, whichever I
Okay.
choose. And then I'm going to head down to Arkansas. I've got a whitetail hunt with a cousin, and I shot my very first whitetail buck in Arkansas in the Ozark Mountains, 2000. Gosh, I don't even know when that was. 2003, something like that, maybe. So, anyways, going to go head down there and hunt with him again for the first time in 20 something years. But, and it's funny because when I went there and hunted with him, my mindset was, yeah, I'm going to go out and hunt a couple weekends a year and that's it. And then, you fast forward 20 years and I mean, technically it's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And so my cousin's like, man, you took this shit way further than I ever thought you were going to. And he's like, but I should have expected that, anything worth doing is worth overdoing, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what you call work more hours.
That's right.
You're not going to do it. I'm the same way, John. I don't do anything halfway, man.
Yep.
If I'm going to do it, I do it full speed. You've got an awesome schedule coming up, and then I want you to tell us here in a second where people can watch you and follow
Yeah.
you on Instagram and reach out to you. And definitely, we're going to keep up with that show and be rooting you on to definitely beat the Joes. And
Yeah.
so hopefully you can get that done.
Yeah.
But also give me if you're talking to the audience and maybe there's a somebody 35 to 45 around our age that never has hunted, what would you say to really encourage them to get out in the outdoors and to understand what nature can do for the soul?
The first thing is you got to go. I think everybody probably knows somebody in their contact list that hunts. Preferably find somebody that you do seems like they come up with a little bit of success.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean, you're probably going to learn from somebody that you can really learn a lot from. And link up with them, see if they'll take you out. Call somebody, see if they'll take you under their wing and show you what it is that they do. But I think as far as like an understanding is there's a lot of ways that you can pitch it, right? There's the whole field to plate mentality. We're carnivores. I mean, you look at our teeth. I mean, we were born to eat meat. And I think anytime you can go out there and reconnect with the outdoors, I mean, not to sound corny and cliche, but when people talk about, the concrete jungle or whatever, well, there's some truth to that. There's the concrete and the asphalt, and then there's the woods. And most of us live our lives in the concrete and the asphalt. So anytime we can go outside and reconnect with nature, I think it brings us back to where we were. It's a good reset button. It's something I look forward to every fall as a good reset. When that season's kicking in, it's a lot of work because we're filming these hunts and we're trying to get the episodes, out to the network as quick as we possibly can. It's a ton of work, but I don't regret any of it. I look forward to every day I can to be out there in the outdoors. This is another one. Somebody can go to YouTube and Google or go to YouTube and search for Chris Pratt hunting or Chris Pratt sunrise. And I forget which talk show he was on, but he gives the most elegant, the most beautiful way of describing being in the outdoors and watching the world wake up, watching the woods the animals wake up, and being there at dark. And, you start hearing a squirrel here, then you hear a bird here, then you hear an owl over here, then more birds, and then the sun's coming up, and then, you see a deer walk across, and even the way that he describes it is almost as good as being there, which is very hard to do.
Right.
Because I always say typically with the outdoors, you got to experience it. You've got to experience it for yourself and let your senses take it in. But he does such an amazing job of describing it that I couldn't imagine anybody who's a non-hunter listening to that and not being somewhat intrigued. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, and everybody's path is going to be a little bit different. I I took it in a way where, again, I never thought this was going to turn into a monetized situation. To me, I was hunting for me. I was hunting for my own mental sanity so I wouldn't lose my
Right.
shit,
Right.
kicking indoors and buying heroin and whatnot. But being out there and finding something that I truly love, and people are like, hey, we like your stories and we like your photography. We like your experiences. We want you to share those with the world and we're willing to pay for them. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like this is
Absolutely.
great. Yeah. You mean I don't have to be a bullet sponge anymore? Like, yeah, sign me up. So, um, it's something that I've been truly blessed with. I don't take it for granted. I'm my own worst critic. I'm always hard on myself, but I'm a extremely driven person, and I want to do well at everything I do. And sometimes I have to stop back and say, "You did your job being out there. You don't always have to notch a tag per se for it to be a successful hunt."
Right.
And Fred Bear talks about that a lot. That if success is measured on if you shot an animal or not, then you're doing it all wrong. And I'm paraphrasing and probably butchered that to death, but the point is still the same. That just being out there, and again, it's a personal challenge to yourself too. I mean, you're seeing what you're made out of. It's hot, it's cold, it's boring sometimes. Climbing that mountain sucks when you've got a 600-700 foot vert just to get to the top, and then you're going to drop back down 500 feet. And if
Yeah.
people think that going downhill is any easier than going
It's not.
uphill, have not climbed a lot of mountains.
Yeah.
And that medialis starts burning real hard
I guarantee you.
on those descents. So I even start doing a sidestep sometimes
Yep.
just to take a little pressure off. But yeah, it's finding out what you're made out of. It's reconnecting with nature. It's a tip of the hat to the way things used to be. I kind of pretend when I'm in the mountains that social media and modern technology doesn't exist
I do the
to
same.
some degree, and it's
Yeah.
there as I use my Onyx to do some
Navigate.
e-scouting on some maps and stuff. But it's always there. But at least I try to pretend that, man, it'd be cool to be on a horse and be doing this with some primitive weapons and whatnot. And and that's a lot of what bow hunting did for me too. Was firearms represented the police job. So a bow, you never seen a police officer with a bow, and so I felt like if I was hunting with a bow, at least I was creating a harder challenge. I was making it more sportsman, but it was a stark difference from carrying a gun every day, for a job, or having an AR-15, on a sling. So that was another reason why bow hunting became so pivotal, and like it was really important. I was able to gravitate towards it, but it's challenging, it's tough, and that's why I say, I mean, you find out what you're made out of real fast. But yeah, put in the time, and I think anybody, it's kind of like this, like NASCAR. You could take somebody who doesn't like cars at all. You take them to a NASCAR race, they may not become a Dale Earnhardt Jr. fan, or a big fan of the sport, but I can tell you that they're going to appreciate. They do end up appreciating it and say, "Well, that was pretty cool."
Yeah. When those
And
engines come across that first lap.
I think that's how it is with hunting. Like, somebody says, I don't have a desire to hunt," but you take them out in the woods and you put them up in a tree, and a deer walks by and doesn't know that they were there. They're going to walk away from that situation with some appreciation and some respect for for the nature. And that's the other thing. I get people that say, well, you say you love whitetails so much, but why do you kill them? And I said, now that's a hard way to explain it, because I do appreciate them so much. And I do feel guilty every time I kill an animal. I feel guilty that I took someone's life, and the best way that I can honor it is to tell the story and tell people how much hunting has changed me. And then whenever you bring that meat home and know that it nourished, my family. I mean, all my kids, they couldn't tell you the difference between cow or venison or elk, or to them, it's meat. They've grown up with it. That's all they know. So
Well, and a lot of people too
it's a give
don't
and
have
take.
a lot of people don't have the knowledge. Hunters and is what helps keep those animals in a good, what a word. That's a conservatory way to make sure that the money that goes through the tags and the licenses and all of
Sure.
that different things. I mean, like for example, in Colorado and Wyoming, the wildlife division, when does get too deep, that's the way they use that money to be able to go feed those animals to
Hmm.
preserve them. And a lot of people just don't understand it. If we never harvested any animals, basically they're going to be infested with disease and all these different things, and they're not going to be healthy. So it
Oh yeah.
allows us to have a sport which is going to allow us to harvest animals for meat, which I believe, my family harvest about 70% of our meals a year
Hmm.
through what we, do as a family. And I think it's the best meat out there that
Hmm.
what you can get at a grocery store or anything else. But a lot of people that see, I can't believe you and John are supporting harvesting animals. They don't have an understanding of everything that goes behind it for
Yeah.
protecting those animals as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the you don't know what you don't know,
Yeah.
scenario. And um, if the non-hunters looked at how much money was brought in from license sales, and not only that, the amount of taxation
Yeah.
on
The
hunting products
communities.
and
Yeah.
rifles and ammunition.
Yeah.
They added that tax on there. Is that going back 15, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Um, but it's a
Yeah.
substantial tax that goes on all those items, and a lot of that money goes back to conservation efforts. And
Right.
we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars, and it's a huge thing. Um, you know, something that people don't talk about is just the work ethic and the appreciation for nature that comes from hunting.
Right.
Um, you see so many of these video games where there's a lack of value of life,
Right.
especially human life. But you see it with farm kids a lot. Farm kids understand nature. They
Right.
understand loss, seeing animals die, and these are all lessons in life that, whenever you lose a grandparent, I'm not saying it makes it easy,
No.
but they understand,
Right.
hey, there's natural causes, they aged out and it is what it is. But there's a huge appreciation, I think, um, of just human life that kind of comes from an appreciation of wildlife and
Right.
whatnot. I watched a guy the other day. He picked up some trash on a piece of public land, and young kid, and he's like 13 years old. And I looked at him and I shook his hand, and he's like, "The hell is that for?" And I said, "You just picked up a piece of trash on public land, and I don't know anything about you, but your parents raised you right. I do know that.
Right.
If nothing else, they've done a good job raising you because, yeah, it's not your house. It's all of our houses. It's all of our
Right.
land. So that means a lot to me. I had a camera guy years ago. His last day on the job was he rolled down the window in the truck as we're cruising down the highway, and he chucked out a, pop can and
Uh-uh.
a pizza wrapper. And I slowed down and I said, "We're going to go back and you're going to go pick that up." And he said, "No, I'm not." And I said, "Well, today's your last day."
Right.
Simple as that. It was
Right.
done.
Right. Yep. No,
So,
I'm big in that too. And you're going to find knuckleheads like that every once in a while, but majority of the people that really understand hunting and the value of hunting,
mhm.
man, they want to take care of the land that has been provided for us. I mean,
It's
absolutely.
huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's extremely important to me. And growing up in the country as a kid, man, every day I was like, I cannot wait till I'm grown and I move off to college and I move into a city and I will never deal with the inconveniences of living in the country. And then I hit about 25 years of age and I said, whatever I do in life, I will be in the country. I will never be in another big city as long as I live.
Oh yeah.
And then the older I get, the more and more I just want to be out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, give me a tent and I'm happy.
Oh yeah.
So and I think a lot of kids are that way. You just, again, you don't know what you don't know until you get out and experience it a little bit. And then you have that fond appreciation, for the outdoors and the country and stuff like that. But man, I tell you, I'm 46 years old, we're very close in age, and had it not been for, having that good fitness background, it keeps me young, I can keep doing the things that I want to do. And hopefully I've got a lot of years left to keep doing it the way I want to do it. I
Right.
don't want to take a back seat. I'm sure there's a day that I might be hunting with a crossbow, but as long as I can keep AC joints and rotator cuffs in check, I can keep pulling a bow back. But, I know that it's coming, at some
Yeah.
point, time is the most important thing in the world. And I've always said, I don't have a fear of death. I got over that really quick. And after you kick in a few doors in the housing project, you realize
Right.
that shit could go sideways. So I don't have a fear of dying, but I have a genuine fear of not getting to do everything I want to do in life before I die. And
Yeah.
that's a strong fear of mine. And that's probably what keeps me motivated and keeps me pushing.
Yeah.
Just because I know it doesn't matter how rich you are, you cannot buy time. It's
No.
the only thing
No.
in life you can't buy. So
Yeah.
make the most of what you got. Like, why would somebody choose to be sedentary and sit on the couch when you know that time is ticking?
Yeah.
Why not get outside and enjoy everything you possibly can and experience all the new things that you can?
Yeah. Yeah.
That baffles me.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is everyone dies, but not everyone lives.
Yes.
And that's what you're talking about. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
not very many people, every one of us is going to die. We know that,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
not very many people ever live life.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I always encourage everyone to do, whether 20, 30, 40, 50-year old, is what are you doing on a daily basis to live
Yeah.
life?
Well,
Get your workout in, push yourself, find you a hobby like hunting, find you something that you're going to live a good quality of life.
Well, and to add to that, it's like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with everything that has said and done, but one thing that I really agree with is he has a quote where he says day one or one day.
Uh-huh.
And it's so profound.
Yes.
Because we both know a lot of people that are like, yeah, one of these days I'd like to do that, and they're never going to do it.
Yeah.
But a person that says today is day one,
Yeah.
they've got their shit together, they figured it out, and they know that they're ready to make a change.
Yeah.
Anybody that wants to start a business, that wants to get into hunting, that wants to be better, stronger, faster, healthier, and live longer, well, today can be day one for anybody. Yes. And tomorrow gets to be day two.
Yes.
And who knows how many days it's going to take, but eventually you're going to get there. But today has to be day one. If tomorrow is day one, it's never going to work.
Yes, absolutely. I talk about it all the time in my trainings that I work with people. Get off of 1 day off, get off of that 1 day off, 1 day off, 1 day off. I mean, it's just constant. So, work more hours with John Mulligan. John, one of 2 Under Armour athletes sponsored, and it's an honor and a privilege to have you on today's show. Give the audience your Instagram handle and any other ways to follow any of your work. That way we're going to be supporting you this fall, and we want you to kick some major butt out there in Vegas.
I appreciate it.
Not only on your hunts.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So the easiest way is Instagram. It's johnny.utah.hunt. If you've ever seen the movie Point Break, that's where the nickname came from, Johnny Utah. So it's johnny.utah.hunt on Instagram, Facebook, Johnny Utah Hunt Official. And then if anybody wants to see any of the hunt episodes where I'm hunting, fishing, or doing tactical games competitions, that is on my TV show that is named Primal Divide. And Primal Divide airs on the Waypoint channel. So the Waypoint channel is a native channel on, I think it's 14 or 15 of the streaming services.
Okay.
Pluto, Sling, Fubo, Samsung TV, Vizio TV. So any of those streaming services, you can catch the episodes. And every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then there's always a floating 3-hour block throughout the week as well. So, but you can go to Waypoint TV. It's a free app, and you could binge watch like YouTube style. I've got 3 seasons on there already, and you can usually all the thumbnails will tell you pretty much what you're going to be watching, and so it'll give you an idea as to what each episode is. But yeah, but like I said, Instagram seems to be kind of the hot thing right now. So as much love and support I can get on there to get me out of my shadow banning. They don't like when you talk about guns and animals
Oh,
too
no,
much on
no,
there.
no, no. They don't like that at all. We could
No.
talk about some other stuff you and I don't agree with, and they won't have a problem with it.
Yeah, yeah.
But anything to do with hunting, yeah.
Well, that's
they're-
what my camera girl said. You need to take your shirt off and do more of those ice baths. That might be the way to break through. And I'm like, yeah, start an OnlyFans. I'll be good to go.
Oh yeah, I know all about those ice baths. My producer one time had me do an ice bath, and I guess my workout shorts was a little bit too loose, and I had a bunch of guys that was commenting not necessarily good things for about a month or so. So I had to shut it down. It was getting several thousand views a minute, and so we had to shut that down a little bit. But
If you're not careful on the ice bath, you might have to blow some
blow it
air
out a
to,
little.
yeah, get it to
I
pop.
just come out of the sauna though. That was the problem. I just come out of the sauna, so had had
That's
plenty of,
but
and before I
that's the
got in.
best.
Yeah,
That is the best. Sauna to ice bath, and then if you go back to sauna, back to ice bath.
That's what I do on the weekends.
Oh, it is amazing. A buddy of mine, Brian Peters, he's got the Breathing Institute, but he played for the Patriots, and but that's what he does now, and he travels all over the country putting on these Breathing Institute classes for people, and he ran me through his deal. I was actually at a Sorinex event, and he ran me through one of those programs, and I said, you want me to do what? You want me to get in the sauna, then get in the ice bath, and then back to the sauna?
160 to 39.
Yeah. And I was like, have you lost your mind? And we got done, and I did it with my buddy Kobe Fouts. Kobe Fouts, his brother Kip Fouts, is one of the founders of Under Armour.
Okay.
And so Kobe and I are really good buddies. He's a Marine veteran, and so we jump in. We're like, screw it, man. If you're doing it, I'm doing it. And so we're doing this deal, and I said, man, this is kind of dumb. Like, this sucks. This sucks pretty bad. Once we get done, I'm standing there. It's like 39, 40 degrees outside. Yeah. It's raining in South Carolina. So we got all that humidity. It should be freezing cold. Yeah. But we're both standing there with wet shorts on, no shirt. We don't have goosebumps. We don't have the chicken skin. And I'm just laughing. And I can't stop laughing. And Brian's like, dude, it's all the rush of dopamine in your body. Yeah. Like, you're literally like, you're high right now, you know, like you've been smoking weed or something. And I'm like, this is the best ever. I've got 2 450 quart Grizzly coolers on my back deck, and I do them every day.
Oh yeah. I do 39 degrees every morning, cold plunge before I go to the gym. But the weekends is when I'll hit it hard, that rotation of sauna and cold plunge. And that's kind of my recovery.
I need a sauna. Man. I need a sauna really bad.
I'm not paid by Costco, but Costco's got some good affordable ones. I think mine's like $900. Yeah. Uh-huh. And it's a 2 or 3 man, and it's infrared sauna. And I love it, man.
I'll have to check that out.
Gets all the toxins out of our body, you know, just makes you have real clear head. And I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out for sure. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Maybe we can get Costco to sponsor you, and then next one you get a discount.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, if anybody's if Marathon or Shell Station, anybody at gas is listening, I could use one of those sponsors.
It takes some gas to go up and down the road, don't it, John?
Man, I tell you, 45,000 miles a year in the Under Armour truck. It wears you out. That's for sure. That's probably one of my biggest expenses of the year is like gasoline. Travel. Travel for sure. Travel, airfare, camera person. Yeah, the tags aren't even that bad, you know, in reality.
No. It's everything else getting there. Well,
Yep,
John, you
for
have
sure.
definitely inspired me to pick up my bow again. I went and got my bow all rigged up. I actually was a big time bow hunter, all
Uh-huh.
the way through high school. Started with the bear, bear
Yeah.
that I mean that sucker max was like 30 pounds pull back. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd shoot a
Yeah.
deer and I mean I'd have to aim way up high, killed a lot of deer with it, but I got a Matthew solo cam now and got it
Yeah.
rigged up this weekend. I have not harvested an animal with my bow in probably about 15 years. I've always been an
Uh-huh.
entrepreneur too. And then when you have kids and I
Oh,
just
yeah.
started teaching them with the rifle, but my oldest son now has really picked up into archery. He's the one that, connected us together
Uh-huh.
and he watched every bit of your content and so have
Uh-huh.
I. And so I'll keep you posted on how I do this fall. I've got a lot of
Heck
hunting
yeah.
trips planned with them and hopefully I can see you in hunt camp this
Yeah.
year and
Yeah.
and if not, then we're going to keep up with each other. And thank you for today's episode. You've done a phenomenal job,
I
and
appreciate
keep
it.
keep inspiring those to get out in the outdoors.
Well, and I mean, I'm serious. Let's try to get a hunt together.
Absolutely.
I took my buddy Corey Anderson. He's the Bellator light heavyweight champion of the world right now. I took him out on his first turkey hunt this spring and got him a turkey. And I tell you, I finally hit that point in my hunting career where I have just as much fun hunting with other people as
Yeah.
I do having to be the one, that's doing the harvesting. So I've been taking
Yeah.
a lot of new hunters and stuff, and became a hunter safety instructor here in Iowa. So teaching kids every
Oh yeah.
spring and fall, and I've had a ton of enjoyment from it. So that's been a lot of
That's one of
fun.
my
But yeah,
favorite things to do. I love to latch on to some kids that maybe their dads don't hunt,
yep.
and my boys have always got kids
You
coming on a
mean
hunt
you mean
trip
their
with
moms?
you. No, the moms or their dads don't.
What is it they
Yeah,
say? Like,
yeah,
yeah, happy Father's Day, unless your
yeah,
dad doesn't hunt, then tell him
yeah.
Happy Mother's Day.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of them out there that don't understand the power of getting in the outdoors with their kids, and I
Yeah.
always try to find those ones and show them. I'll never forget a couple summers ago, was able to take one of them to the Colorado Rocky Mountains, and he'd been in Texas, never saw anything, and just watching his eyes light up, John.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, just phenomenal. Got two elk down on the ground and just I mean, he didn't know what he was doing, but I said, we need to quarter these up. And boy, he just went to whittling away. And
Yeah.
I was trying to teach him. He was in heaven, man. I mean, there's nothing better. So I
It's
encourage
cool.
everyone to get someone outdoors.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's so much fun. They're gonna appreciate. They're gonna appreciate so much. You're passing it on, and then hopefully that's something that they take to their children
Yeah.
and things like that. And we just continue to spread that heritage and keep that alive. I mean,
Yeah.
it's extremely impactful. There's a lot of life lessons. I encourage everybody to get out and do it and appreciate it. I mean, when you see guys like Gordon Ramsay
Yeah.
doing episodes where they're taking game and making and cooking out of it, that's the
Yes.
last person in the world I ever thought I would ever
Yeah.
see, hunting. So, and there's a lot of good advocates out there. You got your
Oh,
guys
yeah.
like Joe Rogan that I think do a really good job of
Yeah.
brokering hunting to
Yeah.
non-hunters as well. So I,
Yeah.
some days I see some good, some days I feel like we're losing it. But I think it's still a net positive, that's still going on every day. And all we can do is do our part and hopefully we can keep it going.
We're going to have to get you and Cameron Haynes in a shoot off together. I see him shooting sometimes 80, 90 yards. It's
Oh
crazy
yeah.
what he does
Yeah.
with the bow and arrow.
I'll do it.
All right. I'll arrange it, man.
Yeah, yeah, I'll do it. He's him and I have never met, but we run in a lot of the same circles.
Uh-huh.
He was at Under Armour for a long time. Him leaving Under Armour is what actually opened up the door for me to take that athlete spot. So, yeah, we're definitely familiar with each other, but we've never really hung out much. But yeah, he's a great advocate, for the sport and does a lot.
Definitely.
And he's got a big voice, and yeah, I'd go shoot. I'd go shoot with him. I'm not scared.
Absolutely. I think you can take him, John.
Yeah,
We'll put that challenge out there. Well,
yeah.
thank you for joining today's episode. Thank you for the Hard Truth podcast being on here today. And I encourage all of you to share this with a friend or family member. Leave us a review and continue to follow John in his journey this fall and give him the support. Thank you for joining us. Good day and God bless.
Thank you.